Thank you. Continuing in seniority on the full committee, Ms. Dingell, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to all of the witnesses for what's a serious day. The ruling by the Supreme Court has immediately jeopardized the health of women all across the country. And as all of my colleagues have said, this is a very personal decision and a medical decision that should be made by a woman, her doctor, and her faith. For the Supreme Court to determine that women no longer have a say over their own body is unconscionable and truly cruel for women. So today I want to focus on how this ruling impacts a woman's access to comprehensive women's health care during medical emergencies, and how these policies are creating confusion for physicians. Healthcare systems are facing uncertainty in the legal sphere regarding enforcement of state bans. In the wake of Dobbs' decision, the largest healthcare system in my state was uncertain about how Michigan's 1931 law could place physicians and clinical teams at risk of criminal liability. Within the first 24 hours, they announced that they would not treat any woman who needed an abortion, which created instant confusion. My phone began ringing at home at 11 p.m. A pregnant woman who had lost 2 children already had gotten a call from her OBGYN, who she trusted, who said, "I can't take care of you. If something happens, you need to go to another hospital system." A pregnant woman with twins called me the next morning. Now, it created such havoc that the hospital system later clarified it in the afternoon. But I talked to enough women in those 12 hours that I understood what fear was and what the doctor's anxiety was. As Republican legislators move to criminalize reproductive care in state after state, they've also tried to conceal the widespread impact of their bans by pointing to exceptions for medical emergencies. However, clinicians have repeatedly said that exemptions for life or the health of a pregnant person are insufficient in securing emergency reproductive care for pregnant people, even when such care would save their lives. Dr. Verma, how do these medical exemptions work in reality, in practice?
Thank you for that question. So it's often unclear to us as the doctors that are actually taking care of these patients how to interpret the medical emergency exceptions when we can actually intervene. So I brought up that situation, patients with pulmonary hypertension who may come in with a condition that has a 50% chance of killing them during the course of the pregnancy. Can we intervene before they get sick, or do we have to wait until they get sick? I take care of many patients that come in after breaking their water at 14, 15, 16 weeks when that pregnancy can never survive outside of the uterus. They're having bleeding. How much bleeding is too much bleeding? Do we have to wait for them to get an infection before we can intervene? So when we are looking at the patient in front of us, what we're taught to do is intervene before they get sick. But these laws are telling us we have to wait until it's an emergency, and it's also clear what that means. There's not a line in the sand when someone goes from being totally fine, walking around, talking, smiling, to actively dying. It's a continuum. What I need to do as a doctor is to intervene earlier in that continuum to keep that person safe and healthy, but the laws are making it really unclear about whether I can do that.
Thank you, Dr. Verma. I wanted to ask you more questions, but I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to move to Dr. Guerrero. Because the Republican Party does not have a monopoly on matters of faith, let alone as it relates to pregnancy care. Pregnancy decisions can be deeply intimate and involve questions of faith, religion, and spirituality. Dr. Guerrero, can you tell me about your organization's Faith Aloud program and the type of spiritual care your organization provides to pregnant people who are seeking pregnancy counseling and exploring their options?
Absolutely. So our Faith Aloud counselors or clergy people and spiritual leaders who believe in meeting their clients and their callers where they're at and supporting them in their vision and communication and connection to their idea of a higher power. And what they do is that they provide an empowering conversation and helpful spiritual language for people to determine what is best for them. And if somebody says that their definition of God is love, then absolutely they're going to support that person. And if somebody says, I'm not sure what my faith has for me, it's a continued exploration of what their relationship is to their higher power and supporting those people no matter what, with the belief that these people are just trying to make the best decisions for themselves over and over and over again, instead of casting them as some kind of person that wakes up in the morning thinking of evil things. Thanks.
Thank you, Doctor. I yield back.
Thank you. Chair now recognizes Ms. Kelly for 5 minutes.